The year 2020 has been a year of change. Global changes have included COVID-19 pandemic, which has resulted in us all having to change our ways, especially with traveling on a global scale. Cutting down air traffic has bound many to their place when the regulations came. The world is not as small or open anymore as it used to be. On a regional scale, there have been wildfires and other natural catastrophes. In societies, some people have demanded rights that they should have by default, more visibly than in years, and there have been demonstrations and confrontations in many places around the world. Individually, people have also gone through changes. Some have lost or quit their job, some found a new one. Some have faced economic challenges and some have overcome them. Relatives, family members and friends have passed away and babies have been born. Relationships have been broken and new have been formed. We haven't been able to see some people important to us physically, but we've been able to connect to them and many others via technology. Children have had to do learning outside of school context and stay away from their important social groups. Adults have had to learn working from home, some meanwhile helping their children in education. We all have faced changes of some kind this year, big or small. We face changes normally also, but this year it has been more rapid, more serious and more visible, and more in number and ways. My name is Jani Kontkanen and you are listening to Mitä pelataan podcast. This series is called Paragons of Change. It's a series of interviews with people from board gaming sphere whom I've noticed going through changes in recent times. We talk about change and what they have changed in their lives. By default, we do not claim we state facts. We only talk from our own points of view and our opinions. As the discussion might take a negative note at times, we try to finish with a positive, by giving you a top 9 list of games. The topic of the list has been chosen by the guest, and we will have a battle of the lists after the episode airs in my social media channels. You, dear listener, are encouraged to comment and vote on the lists to see which one of us did better. The award is pride and fame among the small listener base this podcast has. Now, let's invite our paragon for today. In this Paragons of Change series, we have the second paragon today. Welcome, Mark.
Hi.
Who are you? And what do you do, or how do you exist? Not how do you exist, but what do you do in the board game world?
Sure. I do a few different things. I run Aircon, which I think we'll probably chat a bit about today. I was one of the founders. The first Aircon was held in my house about 6 years ago, something like that. And then sort of about this time last year, I was working for a company called Hush Hush Projects, who publish Fog of Love. That ended earlier this year in April time. And then I just started last month working for PSC Games. And so they publish games like Blitzkrieg, Roman Roll, some of the Red Alert, some of the things that they probably know best for. They're probably the two biggest things. I also am one of the admins for Board Game Trading and Chat UK, which is one of the biggest UK board game groups. So, a few different things.
That's interesting. We get into more detail a bit later, but this year has been a bit strange.
Yeah, definitely.
Globally and locally also, and also related to board games. How has the changes and Corona and all these things been visible in where you live?
Oh, certainly where we live. We have I live in Leeds, which is up in the north of the UK. We had a very, very vibrant kind of board game scene. Loads of clubs, loads of people meeting regularly to play games, and all of that has just had to stop. And so for me personally, that was the main source of my gaming, was going to these various groups, but also having people over here to game. And so my gaming has just dropped right off personally. In terms of just day-to-day stuff, it's kind of gone a bit back to normal. People are keeping their distance, you have the masks on and stuff. But it's just, we can't see friends and family, things like that is what's kind of the biggest changes, I think, now.
How is the situation there now compared to the earlier? Is it getting better or worse, or just staying the same? Or
Yeah, so they are saying that in the UK in general it's getting worse. Where I am in Leeds, we've just gone into what they're calling these local lockdowns. So that they'll just go for a certain city or a certain area and kind of put people back into lockdown. But it's not like the first lockdown where you couldn't even really leave the house or leave your garden. It just means that we can't have friends and family over into the house or into our garden. We can still go to the pub. We can,
of course, you can.
Yeah. And if we happen to meet our friends there, that's okay. So it's it's a little bit funny.
Yeah.
I think the general mood is that people are just a bit fed up.
Yeah.
Like when it was summer, or even earlier in the year. I mean, there was obviously some fear, and it was a bit like we didn't know what was going on. But there was this kind of side of it that was like a bit more like novelty. Where it's kind of interesting, like this was just something very different that we hadn't really experienced before. But now I think the thought of kind of going into winter and having to maybe go through all of that again, I think is really getting to people, and they're just a bit fed up of it, I think.
I think that maybe there shouldn't have been that loose restrictions in the summer, because at least here we were doing very well in July, and now we are almost at April's levels. And then we had a lockdown. Now we are not even thinking of a lockdown, so we'll have a horrible Christmas this year.
Yeah,
it seems.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting. I think one of the hardest things here is just the confusion. I think a lot of people just don't know. The rules are changing so often, and because of these local lockdowns, even with the UK being sort of 4 separate countries, each country has its own rules, and then because of the local lockdowns, certain cities or certain areas have their own rules, and it can change week to week. They sort of every Friday they're doing a new announcement. Sometimes there's new rules, sometimes there's not. They just brought in this thing where pubs have to shut at 10 last week, and I think people are probably a little bit confused about what's going on, and I think that's maybe causing some of the sort of unrest amongst people in general.
Yeah, we're getting the restrictions for pubs next week.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. It's kind of a funny thing, because I remember I used to work in a bar many years ago, and I remember when they brought in more late licenses here in the UK, so 11 is generally the norm, but they started granting more of these late licenses, which meant people could kick out at midnight or 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning. And part of the reason they said that was to sort of spread people coming out. Not everybody was coming out into the street at the same time and all drunk and all fighting. And so it's kind of funny that we've now gone back to this point where it's like everybody is now suddenly back in the streets or in the supermarkets at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. People forgot how it was in the spring.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. What
do you think about change in general?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty open to change myself. I'm quite a big advocate for it, as long as there's a good reason to. I think, if I can get my head around that there's a good reason for a change or things like that, I'm usually one of the first to jump on board. I'm fine with it. To the point where I'd say sometimes I'm maybe in certain roles that I've been in the past, I've probably been too quick to change and kind of forgotten that some people don't like change and kind of been like, yeah, let's just go for it, and forgotten to kind of bring people along with me. So yeah, I'm a fan of it. It doesn't really faze me that much. I think my childhood was spent moving around a lot. So I was born in Germany. Both my parents were in the armed forces, and then we had to move every 2 years, and I did that until I went to high school, which is when I was 11, 12. So I'd always and like every time, you wouldn't always move with the same people. I'd have to make new friends very quickly each time when we moved. So I kind of think that I was always just used to change, and that's how it came about, I think. So it doesn't faze me.
All right. How about change on a global scale? Do you think there is something happening currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard not to look back over the last few years, and I think even the biggest thing is just I think people are becoming more and more polarized, which is an unsettling change, which is one that I don't think is good.
I agree.
I think people are getting more extreme on, I don't want to even say both sides of the political spectrum. I don't think it's just a line anymore. I think it's like a star with people going out in all different directions
or a circle.
Yeah, or something, I don't know, where people are just getting further and further apart from each other and can't see common ground. It's just like people are getting so entrenched in their own viewpoints. And it's just a real shame, and it has happened in the past, of course it has, but it's just a shame to see it in this kind of modern world, and some of these more extreme points of view being given as much airtime as sort of more moderate points of view, I suppose, I guess it's because of globalization and things like people just being able to find other people that have these same sorts of viewpoints and finding a voice that way. Whereas before, I guess you would have expressed things to your friends locally and they probably would have said like, oh, shut up, that's stupid. Whereas now you can go on the internet and find somebody else that thinks the same thing as you, and you kind of get together and go, yay, this point of view is valid. And
if someone agrees, it's valid.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very visible in Twitter, especially.
Oh yeah, I try and stay off Twitter. I find it quite hard work.
It's usually that nothing positive comes from there, but
that's true.
It's good to follow sometimes, but
yeah. I think it's good for connecting to other people, kind of in the hobby. It's not something I would use to voice my opinions on a subject, because I just don't think you can do it eloquently enough. Even though they doubled the character count, a couple of years ago, I still don't think it's enough to be able to get the subtleties of how you might think about something, and people sort of just jump on the very first thing that you put out every time. So I think it's challenging.
That's true. They only read a few sentences and that's it.
Yeah.
And if it's too long, they don't read, so it doesn't really matter what you write. Do you think change is always good, or can it be bad?
I definitely think it can be bad. Yeah.
Or is it situational? Is it up to the situation? You said that you are up for change and you like change and you're used to it, and you're even too eager to jump to some changes. Yeah.
Of course, it's situational. I think sometimes there can be a good reason for change, or there can be a good motivation for change, but it can be not carried out well. This is if someone or a group of people are trying to change something. If it's not carried out well, the change can become bad. So there's something in the method of how you go about change, and certainly in the world, like sort of changes that are a bit more out of our control, kind of what we were talking about before. I certainly think there's bad change. Like I think at the point where people are getting so polarized that they can't talk to each other, or even within members of the family or friends that used to be able to talk to each other, now they can't because their views have become so extreme. Of course, I think that's bad. I think I think it's better to try and come together on things rather than just everyone splinter off into different directions. So I think, of course, change can be bad, I think, but even sometimes I would say the opposite of what I said before. I think something can initially seem like a bad change, but it can be turned around, or you make the best of it, and it can become a good thing.
No, that's actually well put. You already said in the beginning about you changing the job and such.
Yeah.
And you were working for Hassas projects, and now you are at Plastic Soldier Company.
Yeah.
If I open that PSC to someone who necessarily doesn't know. How does it feel to go from this fog of love thing to playing with the soldiers?
Yeah, it's pretty different. I think it's a very different pace of work, and I think fog of love, I guess there was the good game, but it was just the one game that Hush Hush had, and we were working on a new one, but it was all sort of the work was not slow, but it was, a slower pace, certainly, I'd say that. And it was much more iterative, and you kind of go through all these different changes. Whereas at PSC, there's just a lot going on. I think I am currently managing about 13 different projects or games.
That's too many.
That are at various stages of they coming to release or not. But I actually like that. I like having lots of different things and, keeping things interesting. So
you don't get bored, at least, I think.
Oh, definitely not. No, there's plenty going on. And I think their kind of philosophy is they'd rather try something and it not work out than just not try it in the first place, which I think is great, as long as you can afford to do that, I guess.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And PSC is quite hot, so to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Currently, at least I get that feeling that they're coming up now with the more board games.
Yeah.
Like this Blitzkrieg in Essen, I think it was released there or something, and this Roman Roll just recently arrived to the backers.
Yeah.
And it seems that it's getting lots of this positive buzz.
Yeah.
So you have 13 projects. That's a huge amount. So we probably can expect more good things from PSC, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And part of that was a conscious sort of decision by the owner, Will. So PSC have been around, I think it's 11 years. And they were initially known as they have the Plastic Soldier Company, which make the kind of figures and the historical minis and things like that. But about 4 or 5 years ago, Will decided that he wanted to get into more of these kind of boxed board games. And so they did that, and that's there's the distinction between Plastic Soldier Company and PSC Games. So PSC Games is the board game arm of Plastic Soldier Company.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have we have a good team. We have David Terzi is in as our games developer, so that's I mean, he's also a pretty hot designer at the minute. So
yeah, that's true.
So that really helps. Although we're not just doing his designs, we have other designers that we work with, and he kind of is helping to develop those games and get them to market. So
that's actually really good acquirement.
Yeah.
He's a hot guy currently.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Yeah, hot, but anyway, hot in the hobby.
Yeah, definitely.
And people are praising his work, and I like most of his stuff that he's done that I've played.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Good.
How about Aircon? That was the convention of doom. I was checking that. Are you really going to have it? Are you going to have it? And you had it, and you got people from everywhere. And after that, you went to lockdown. Did you think even a bit that you shouldn't have it this year?
Yeah, I mean, we were all over the place. So the problem we had here in the UK was that we were waiting on the government, basically, on their decision. And so, all that week, even when we were doing setup and everything, we were still just refreshing the news. There was this announcement that they were going to bring out some news at, it was something like 10 o'clock in the morning on the Thursday that we were setting up, and it didn't come, and it was about 4 o'clock in the end, and basically nothing happened. They just said, we're just going to carry on as we are. And so at that point, I think it's hard to think back now for a lot of people, I think, just how quickly things changed here. And so it was, even just a week before, people were still saying it's not an issue, it'll be fine, it's all under control. And it was like it was suddenly ramping up through that week and then carried on into the future. The problem we had and the decision we had to make was, if we had cancelled without any kind of because there was no restrictions on events, it would have been us cancelling, and everything, we would have then been liable for everything. Which is, everybody's costs, potentially even guests and visitors and stuff. So instead, we just tried to focus on, let's make this as safe as convention as we can. We worked with the convention centre on making sure that everything was being sterilised and that there was hand sanitizer everywhere, because even at the time there was a hand sanitizer shortage in the supermarkets.
Everywhere.
And so what they'd had to do was actually fix things to the wall. So because they kept putting bottles out and people kept stealing and things like that. So they put, everywhere you went, it was as safe as could be. We put up all the advice that there was. We kind of made sure we were putting out on social media, like, this is how you stay safe. So Did
they steal the toilet paper there?
I don't think we were okay at that point. I don't think we'd got to the point where toilet paper was short. So I think
they didn't use some tape or anything in the convention center for the toilet paper.
No, I think we were okay. So yeah, I mean, of course, we were having all these thoughts, but without any support from the government or insurance or anything, because we were looking into all of that, it was less risk for us to run the event and nobody turn up than it was to cancel it and have to cover all these costs that we just couldn't afford to do. So it was a really tough spot to be in.
How about at the moment? Would you make the same decision?
I wouldn't run a convention right now, no.
No, I mean that if you have the knowledge you have now, would you still run the convention? I think it went well and there was no this group diseases or something that you didn't get infected in huge numbers.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. It's really hard to say because again, just what we know now compared to what we knew then is so different. I think it's basically the decision we were making was, do we want to run it and risk this thing that we were being told at the time was not that bad here in the UK, or do we cancel it and then we never run it again? We couldn't have afforded to ever do it again if we had cancelled. So that's the kind of decision where we were at, and kind of in a way what we were saying was we hope that the government says there's a ban on events, which means that we can cancel and we can get some support then from the government, or they say it's okay, and they said it was okay. It's the kind of the worst thing would have been if they had said something like, we're going to ban events from next week, because it would have been somewhere in between. So I think we made the decision that we had to at the time. And we just tried to make sure it was as safe and as fun event as it could be, given the circumstances. No,
they cancelled the Finland's biggest boardgaming convention this week on Monday, I think.
Okay.
It was supposed to be in 2 weeks.
Oh wow!
And I was telling them that, why are you even thinking of doing it? It won't happen. Come on! But they just wanted to keep the hope up.
Yeah.
It would have been in Helsinki. I would have never gone there.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of people there compared to where I live.
Okay.
And so many more infections. But I think it's a great decision that they didn't hold it.
Yeah, I think so.
But let's see how long Aircon will be the last convention that was held during the year.
Yeah, possibly. And we might be the first again afterwards, which will be kind of funny.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, But this is kind of, we're sort of talking about, we've got a lot more information now. We know much more, and so how we're working it is that we have spoken to the convention centre where we hold Aircon, and we have come up with a really good set of terms with them because they're wanting to work with us. They really value Aircon coming. It's one of their favourite events. And so basically we're going to get to sort of February time, and then that's when we need to make the final call. And so if it's looking like things are okay, then we will plough on and go ahead. If it's still looking like things are not so good, then we will just cancel it at that point. We won't. So we don't find ourselves in that same situation of having to make that horrible decision.
Yeah, but that's good that you got into agreement with the convention center.
Yeah.
Well, I saw some dates already. When did you plan to have the Aircon next year?
So we're hoping it's going to be the 16th to the 18th of April.
Okay.
So,
so hopefully this will be done by then.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I think the only way I can see it being done now is if a vaccine is available, or if for whatever reason the virus runs itself out, I guess, which some people are saying might happen.
Yeah, or become so mild that there are no bad symptoms.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, thankfully we have this sort of get out in February, which is far enough away that people could still book their rooms or still book their transport if we're able to go ahead, or cancel it if they need to if we're not able to run and they've already booked it.
So, how has the year been for you and this changing the job and everything? Do you think you yourself have changed in the process?
Yeah, I certainly think so. So it wasn't just a straight move from one job to the other. When I changed jobs, I finished. It's kind of an interesting thing in that I knew that I was finishing my job back in January. So we had 3 months' notice. So I knew that I was finishing in April. And so I was spending obviously a lot of time looking for jobs, but it was as everything was getting worse.
Yeah, best timing.
Yeah, as everything was getting worse with coronavirus. So I was really struggling to find any other work. And so I kind of got to the 1st of May and I had no job. And that was kind of a funny situation because I've never been unemployed in my life since I was 12, I think. I got my first job, something like that, 12 or 13.
How did it feel?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. It was strange not to have like a focus for each day, I guess, of like, this is what you're going to do today. And so that was kind of odd. And also odd that I guess before that my wife and I had, been fairly equal in terms of household income and things like that. And all of a sudden it's all relying on her. And so that was something that we had to just sort of work through. But we decided that what I should do is use my time to kind of try and get some other qualifications or something like that to help me get a job. And so I still came up into my office at our house most days, and I was doing a project management qualification. So I'd done lots of project management in my life, but I didn't have any formal qualifications. So I worked through that, did the exams online and everything. And sort of just as that was finishing, I got an offer of some work with a brewery for a couple of days a week. And then about a month after that, I got the interview with PSC and the job there. So it wasn't that long, thankfully, in the end. And I just sort of kept myself busy. But yeah, it was certainly a different time.
Have you worked in a brewery earlier, or is it a new project again?
So I've worked in bars and pubs a lot when I was younger, and I have brewed beer, not as a job, but I've done it. And yeah, I was really fortunate that came along, and it's something I'm quite passionate about as well. So. I'm joking now that that I get to do the two things that I love as my jobs. I get to
beer and games,
and beer. So
yeah,
so yeah, it's good. I think the hardest thing now is like that I'm doing both jobs, and it's just trying to remember which one I'm in at which part of the day, switching between them because it's not like a defined. This day is for the brewery and this day is for. PSC, I might do a little bit of brewery work in the morning, then switch to the games, and then a bit more brewery work. So it's just trying to switch my mindset quite quickly from one to the other is the challenging bit.
But it really suits you then, because you said that you like change and you are up for change, so you are switching to work, and in a way you have to change all the time. So it should suit you very well, I think. Yeah,
no, I love it. I love the variety of it, and I just spend some time making sure that my work area is set up for it, and even on my computer I set up different profiles for the different jobs, so I'm not seeing... That's
a good idea, actually.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing emails ping in from one when I'm supposed to be doing the other. It's like I'm concentrating on one thing or the other, and I'm just really sort of trying to separate my day out well.
Well, that's actually a good idea. I never thought that you could do that if you had two separate jobs. I would probably just do it with one computer.
Yeah.
That would be difficult.
Yeah.
What do you expect from the future?
Yeah, I think I think we will be quite changed as a society when we come out the end of it. I think initially I was thinking that it would all be over in 3 months and we'd all just go back to normal and kind of almost not forget about it, but just kind of be a bit like, that was funny, wasn't it? As though it was like an extraordinarily hot summer or something like that. Not funny is probably the wrong, but
hilarious.
Yeah, not hilarious, like funny as in a strange situation. But I think things have changed now. I think even when you go in stores and you see the plastic screens and stuff, I don't think they will all immediately come down when things are okay again. And I think a lot of them will stay up almost forever. And
probably.
Yeah, I think we will likely see masks hanging around for some people. I think some things will take a much longer time to recover, like events and entertainment in general. Theatres and cinemas will just really, really struggle. And pubs and bars, certainly here in the UK, I think they will have a harder time bouncing back because I think more people will have discovered that, I could just have a drink at home. I don't need to go out. And so I think
it's so deep in your culture to go to the pub for a drink.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can do it at home. Yeah, that might be a big hit to pubs.
Yeah, I think it could be. And this thing of so the culture, certainly here where I live, is that on a Friday or a Saturday night when you finish work, you would go to your local pub or your local bar for a drink or two, and then you would get a train or a bus or taxi into town, and then you would spend the rest of the evening there. And I think we'll see less of that. I think people will stay more local. They will get beers into the house or drinks into the house instead.
No.
And so I think this kind of thing of bottle shops and off licenses, I think they will become much more important to people than pubs and bars, unfortunately.
Do you have anything else to add to this part of the discussion? Or do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my general approach to change is just that it will happen, and change is inevitable, I think is the saying. And what I just try and do is always just try and make the best of it, even if it's rubbish and even if it's a change that you don't want. I think you try and make the best of it at all times. It's not always easy to do, but I think with practice you can do it, and you can learn to turn things into good even when they look like they're going to be absolutely terrible. And so even with this horrible situation that we find ourselves in now, there have been some good changes come out of it. I speak to my parents much more regularly. I visit my dad, which I wasn't really doing a lot before. And so we just try and focus on those kinds of things. We were really proactive in investing in our kids and making sure we made the most of the time with them, because it would be very rare to get that much time with your kids and not have to work, or not have to go into an office and stuff. And so
that's true.
We just try to, acknowledge that there was all this rubbish stuff happening, but at the same time, what good can we get out of it? What good is there in this change? And so that's how I like to try and approach things.
Yeah, social distancing from other people, but social closeness with the close people.
Exactly, yeah.
That's actually a good thing. Well said. So, to cheer us all up, we have been very deep in the corona hole now, but you have created a top 9 list, right? And we'll do a little paddle with the lists after the show. What's the topic that you chose for today's list?
So I went for top 9 games that feature food and or drink as their main theme.
And how did you make your list? Did you do some kind of limitations, or did you disqualify some games for some reasons?
Yeah, so I disqualified some where they maybe have food in them, but they're not it's not the main thing of the game. That food could have quite easily been something else. But the designer just chose food for that reason. I have disqualified things where it is maybe food, but it's not food that you could just eat straight away. So like farming, some farming games that are maybe about vegetables or raising sheep or something. You can't just eat a sheep. So, so just
Not anymore, at least.
yeah, certainly. So disqualify games like that. But I did find it hard. I think when I first suggested it, I looked over my shelves, and within the first few shelves that were near me, I kind of went, oh yeah, there's at least 9 there. This will be fine. But when I actually came to it, I was like, oh, actually, this is quite hard.
Yeah, I got 7, and then the last 2 were like, how will I limit mine?
Yeah.
I basically limited also where you feed your people. It's not food game like Caverna Agricola, Le Havre. I threw all of them out. Half of my list would have been just Uwe Rosenberg. So I also took games where the food is not just one resource or one component, but it's an integral part of the game.
Yeah.
And I actually ranked the games in order of not what is the best game, but where the food is the most important.
Okay.
In some strange way, they are not really like that, but the more important the food feels to me in the game, the higher the game is on the list.
Yeah. Okay.
How did you rank yours? Did you just put the best one to the top?
Yeah, I've just gone with in order of my favourite games.
Oh, come on. I just made the top 90 games of all time list, so I don't want to put the same ranking
Okay.
here. So
Yeah.
I wanted to mix it a bit.
Yeah. I don't do my top 10s and top 20s that often, so it was quite hard even just putting them into a rank.
Do you want to do the numbers?
Yeah.
Richard did them last time, so he tried to go the Eric Summerer way and sound good. So let's see how you will do.
Okay.
So you can begin and you can say your game first, and then I say mine.
Okay.
If it's fun for you.
So Eric Summerer. Eric Summerer.
Eric Summerer.
Eric Summerer.
You can just be creative.
Okay.
However you want.
Number 9. There you go.
That was actually really good. Well done.
Thanks.
Maybe you should apply for his position.
Maybe. So my number 9 is one that I'm sure a lot of listeners have played. It's Sushi Go. I really like it. It's one that I always take home at Christmas. It's one that I will play at any point. My copy is pretty ragged. I think I might have to get a new one because it's been played so often. You know, all the corners are bashed and dented and stuff. I haven't got Party. Mine is just the basic Sushi Go. But it's all about sushi. So, and it's super good and quick introduction to drafting. I think it's a really good way of getting into card drafting.
All right. My number 9 is Viticulture and the Essential Edition. This is not higher because I don't think the wine is necessarily the integral part of the game, because you can gain points with many other ways.
Okay.
There are the foods and also the other things, but I somehow feel that it could be anything else. Okay, there's theme and such, but you can do things without doing anything with the food or the drink. That's why this is on the 9th spot. It might be higher otherwise if it was in rank of how good the game is.
Yeah.
Although I think the base game is a bit boring, you need to add the expansion.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
All right.
Number 8. So my number 8 is At the Gates of Loyang. It's, I know what I said at the start about farming and stuff, but I feel like this one gets a pass because a lot of the stuff that you're farming you can eat straight away. It's radishes and fruits and things.
You can't eat them anyway. I disqualified it for that reason. It would have been there otherwise.
Yeah, there's no eating, but it's a lot of food, and I think it's one of my favourite Uwe Rosenberg games. I think it's not one of his most popular, but it's one that I really like, but obviously only probably at 4 players. I think it's really interesting that with the way that you play, that a 4-player game takes about the same time as a 2-player game, and then a 3-player game takes longer, which is kind of funny. But I think it's really good. I think there's lots of interesting decisions going on, and I just really like the card play, and I love the little veggie bits.
Wait, you like it with 4, really?
Yeah.
everyone I've talked to have said that it's a 2-player game and that's it.
Uh,
I've only played it in Yukata and we played 3 and 2,
Okay.
I think. It was a good game, but I just thought that it doesn't have enough food. Because it has more to do with the guests and the stalls and such, so I thought that maybe it's not. But I had to disqualify most of the Uwe games. Anyway.
Fair enough. But I kind of figured, you're fulfilling these orders, and a lot of it is a requirement on the food. And
They're veggies at least. Yes, that's true. Oh, I forgot one game now. I remembered. Oh, anyway, it's not that much about food. My number 8 is Vinyos, and this has all about wine. I've played the earlier version, not the new one, but there are so much other stuff to do also besides the wine, so this is this low otherwise. I've only played this one, but I really want to play it again because it's much better than it looks. It's this Vitala Söder game, so it might seem really difficult, but everything goes so well together and everything is tied to each other, and if you make not one but maybe 3 mistakes, you are losing the game.
Okay.
And I really liked that one play that I had, and this would be higher if it had everything to do about the wine. Like I said, I ranked it according to how much I feel like the food is important part in the game.
Yeah.
So, on the 8th spot, Vinyos.
Great. Number 7. So, 7 I've got, it's not going to be surprising that beer might feature a bit in my list. So my number 7 is Home Brewers. And so this was a little Kickstarter. It kind of weirdly didn't do that well. It came from Dice Hate Me Games, which they usually do pretty well. But it's about you are home brewers of beer. You're brewing beer and going through the whole brew process. You then take that beer to kind of beer festivals to try and sell it and move up various tracks to get your beer rated the best in various different categories. And so, yeah, home brewers. It's neat.
That I haven't played it, but I've heard things about it that I should try it. It feels like that. Is it the game that has the like a realistic looking beer glass or something in the front? Okay.
Yeah.
It sounded from what you described that it's like Vinyos but with beer.
Okay.
And a bit lighter probably.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty light. The one thing that kind of puts me off about the game, but I can kind of get past it, is that your actions are decided by dice. And so you kind of roll 3 dice and that tells you what actions you can do, but you can trade them with other people. And so you can say, well, I want to go and buy hops, so can I trade my dice with you? And you can do that, or you can change them in various ways. But like thematically, I'm like, what is that? Like, why, if I don't happen to get the dice that lets me go to go and buy hops, like what is stopping me from buying hops in real life? It's kind of a weird, like that's the only thing I kind of find a bit weird with it. But other than that, I think it is pretty light, but it's a lot of fun.
All right. My number 7 is almost the same as you had at number 9, but mine is Sushi Roll.
Oh, okay.
Because I wrote in the list Sushi Roll or Sushi Go. I haven't played the party. I think I saw the party being played 2 weeks ago, and it looked very good.
Yeah.
Sushi Go is probably the best game to teach drafting to new players. It's much better than Seven Wonders for that.
Yeah, definitely.
And Sushi Roll makes the game more strategic. Have you played the Roll?
I've not played Roll. No, I have heard good things about it though.
The good thing is that because you roll all the dice in the beginning, and in the beginning of the round you can see what is coming to you, so you can really strategize better than in Sushi Go, because you don't know what is coming. But there I like it's a bit deeper and a bit more difficult, but it's so easy to teach and play and everything. And yeah, it's just nice because the dice move on this trays. What is it called? This belt that is in the sushi restaurant.
Yes, yeah.
This conveyor belt.
Yeah.
It's on that, and the dice move around, and then they move the other direction, and it's really well done.
Cool.
From the Sushi Go, in my opinion.
Great. Number 6. So my number 6 is another farming game, but again, you're farming stuff that you can eat straight away. I'm trying to deliver them. It's kind of abstract. It's Heartland.
Haven't played this.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I think it didn't do that well because the cover looks really, really boring. It's just like a farmer stood next to his tractor with some crops and a barn in the background. It's like really, really dull. But the game itself is really mean. So you're trying to create these fields of different crops and then get them as big as you can so you can harvest them. But other people are able to lay tiles over the ones that you've laid and kind of split these fields up, and it's really actually quite mean, but it plays really quickly. It got maybe this should have been lower in terms of the food bit of it because it got rethemed as Gunkimono, I think, which has nothing to do with food. I think that's creating territories in feudal Japan or something.
But is there space between gun and kimono?
Yes.
That was a very bad joke. Anyway, if it's gun kimono, then it's, anyway. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
So there is food in it, and the idea is that you're harvesting it to sell it, and that's how you get your points. So I kind of figured there is some food there, but it's a good game if you can find it.
Or the gun kimono.
Yeah,
I think
I've not played that one. I don't know how different it is. But
okay, I haven't played it either, but I have heard that it's okay game or fine.
Yeah. I think one of the things that is good about Heartland is that it looks quite innocent and the theme of it is quite innocent. I think if you knew that you were going into a mean game, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just another mean game. But with Heartland, you kind of feel like you're going into a nice farmy game and it turns out to be mean, but not in a bad way. So
it's like estates.
Yeah.
My number 6 is Clans of Caledonia. I thought that I will disqualify this, but then right before this, because I had 7 games ready, and I took this off the list, and then I was thinking that what will I take? And why not Clans of Caledonia? Then I thought that okay, everything is food. You are making whiskey, you're making bread, you're making cheese, you're making milk, and you're exporting all of them, and you're using them as resource. And okay, it's about food. It has to be about food.
Yeah.
So basically, Clans of Caledonia is because most of the resources are about food.
Cool.
And have you played this?
No, again, it's what I keep seeing and keep wanting to play, just never had the chance so far.
The board game arena implementation is really good.
Okay.
It's really good of this game. It's almost better than the board game version. But it's basically you have a map and there's lakes and rivers and you are a Scottish clan and you're trying to spread yourself across the whole area, and in the corners you get bonuses and you pay money to build things, and then the things that you build every round they give you some resources, and there's a market board, you can sell things and buy things, and it's really, really well done. Some people say that it's like Terra Mystica light, but it's not really that. There's the neighboring bonus if you build next to someone's cheese factory, or what is it, cheese place, then you can buy cheese with a discount. If you build next to a cow, then you can milk the cow with a discount.
Yeah.
So but it's really, really good game. Cool. I like it at all player counts. It's a great game. It would be higher if it was ranked according to the the quality of the game, but this is according to the importance of food.
Fair enough. Cool. Number 5. I've got more beer for number 5, but this is beer and monks, so this is Heaven and Ale, which is quite an abstract game, really, but it is all about beer and monks brewing beer and selling that beer. So, I absolutely love Belgian beer. I would say probably one of the best brewing nations in the world. And the kind of whole thing with Trappist monks is really interesting about these monks that brew beer in their monasteries, and it's some of the best beer in the world. It's just really, really clever. And I also really like games that have rondelles, and this has it. So you're kind of moving around a rondelle track to do different actions. You're then building around your monastery, and you're planting crops, or you're putting monks out to go and get those crops and to give you various bonuses and stuff. But it's really clever, and it has this really neat scoring mechanism that you're actually moving up 5 counters up your scoring track. I think 5, maybe 6. it's 5 counters and then your monk, your brewer. Yeah, so, and then at the end of the game, you're kind of almost averaging your points in a really interesting way, and then wherever you end up is where you know how you score. So yeah, I think I find it really interesting and really just a very clever game, I think.
The monks in Finland, they make wine.
Oh, okay.
They don't make beer.
Yeah.
At least the monastery close to us.
Yeah.
I think there's only one monastery in Finland actually, but it's close to us, like 80 kilometers. They make wine. They make really good wine actually.
Yeah.
And they make honey and everything else, but they don't make beer.
Yeah, that's
if
strange.
they made, I would go and buy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that, you know, it is this thing with a lot of those monasteries. The beer is obviously a focus for them, but they do bread and cheese.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Also, honey is obviously a common one as well. So, yeah, so it's good.
All right. My number 5 is something very different from the Joyful Monks. It's Robinson Crusoe.
Oh, okay.
And the food there, okay, it's just a component, but it's so important component in the game because you never have it enough. If you have it too much, it will rot.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you have these bananas and you don't make it as a canned food, if you make it into a food that stays, then it stays. But if it's in banana form, you eat it or you lose it.
Right.
But if you can make it into canned food, then it stays longer. And it's so crucial part of the game and surviving in the game that's why it's on the list. Although I said that if it's just a component, but here it's too important component, and it's not just feeding your people like in, let's say, Agricola.
Yeah.
Here you have to get it.
Sounds good.
And you can get it in many different ways and in different forms from all the tiles and everything. Have you played Robinson Crusoe?
No, not what I've played. Again, no particular reason why I haven't played it. I think, you know, I hear good things about it all the time. It sounds very mean. I think that's the...
It's really difficult. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, people say that, I beat all the levels. No, you haven't. They're cheating. Or they played it so many times because it's a bit random.
Oh, okay.
I mean, no matter how well you do, you can just... There is this adventure card mechanism, or this card mechanism that I really like. That let's say that you go on an adventure, and the card says you don't read the whole card, you read the upper part of the card, and it might say that you find a bush, it has nice red berries. What do you do?
Yeah.
Then you choose if you eat them or if you just walk by. If you eat them, you put the card to the deck.
Okay.
And when it comes from the event deck, it might say that you've been poisoned, lose 5 health.
Oh, well.
And there are many cards like this. Some might give you a plus bonus later, or might give something positive, some give negative, but you don't know what it is before you've seen that card. So we're actually playing, if we're playing with the wife, I'm doing so that I take the cards away that we've seen or used, so that we don't see them again until we go through all the decks. Maybe someone thinks that it's cheating, but it's not cheating.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I just want to see the new things.
Yeah.
We haven't played it for a while, but when we played it last time, we played it 4 times in a row.
Wow.
And didn't win even once.
Yeah.
So we were a bit masochist at that time, but yeah, it's a great game in my opinion.
Yeah. Good. Number 4. Just looking at my list, it's all farms and drink. So this is Cinque Terre, which is a nice pick up and deliver game. But it's really interesting where you're kind of, you've got a little truck. You're going out to farms on one side of the board, picking up fruit and veg in various combinations, and then bringing it back round to the village, the 5 villages, which is an actual place in Italy, in northern Italy. You can only go round the path in one direction, which is actually thematic because that's what they've had to do there because there's so much traffic there, tourist traffic, that they've had to make it so you can only go in one direction. But yeah, you're picking up fruit and veg from the farms, you're delivering it to the various towns to fulfill orders, and what you're picking up is little crates of the food. The annoying thing was with the original game, you couldn't actually fit those crates on your little truck. But I've got something off Etsy or something where it's like a little thing that clips on that means you can actually put these little crates on the back of your truck as it travel around. But it's a really, really good game. It's one, for some reason, it's just not that widely available. But kind of almost everyone that I play with then goes on a hunt for it somewhere because they just really love it. Again, it's a game that it seems quite simple when you first look at it, and the art is all very vibrant and very colourful, but it's usually about 2 or 3 turns into someone's first game of playing it, they kind of realise, oh, actually this is a lot deeper and there's like a lot more decisions that I need to set myself up for here. And yeah, it's just a lot of depth to it. It's a really good game.
Mm-hmm. Which one found it first, you or Mike Delisio?
I don't know actually, because I think we both already knew about it before we knew each other, and so I think it was just as we suddenly discovered that we had this love of it separately.
I really want to try this because now you're also praising it, and it really seems very interesting to play at least once.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't even seen it.
I mean, it's pure pick up and deliver. If you don't like pick up and deliver, you probably wouldn't like it. But yeah, you kind of have various different orders, but the way you get the orders is kind of interesting because when you fulfill a public one, you can then choose to take a secret one that then no one can see what you're trying to do. So yeah, it's really interesting. There is a Tabletopia version of it that's pretty good.
Well, I'm not going to touch Tabletopia. It looks too clunky.
Yeah.
Even Tabletop Simulator is at the border for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's not. Thankfully, the game is not too complicated, so it's okay. It's just Tabletopia itself is a bit buggy.
Yeah, so. That's what I've heard. Yeah. I'm not going to touch it. But let's see. It's difficult to get it from Finland, I'm sure. But
yeah.
Maybe from somewhere. Maybe in Geek Market they have.
Maybe. I think it's been pretty hard. You kind of don't see it for sale a lot. So for whatever reason, Rio Grande haven't reprinted it. So I think it's just quite hard to get.
My number 4 is Feast for Odin.
Okay.
So I was disqualifying this as well. This is the second addition to the list. I thought that I'm not putting this because I'm not putting the other Uwe's games either, but this game is quite a lot about food. Mm-hmm. There are so many food items and there's drinks and everything, and yeah, you feed your people, but you feed them in a different way and you can use the foods for other things also.
Yeah.
And there are veggies and meats and everything, so it's very big part of the game, so it would have been unfair to disqualify this.
Yeah.
And if this was order of how good the game is, this would be number 1, but as it's not, then it's not number 1. It would be higher, but there are other parts of the game also that are important, like these loots and other items. And basically, you are managing a Viking clan and you're trying to fulfill your island with different items taken from the raids from England, and I can't make this thematic. Anyway, you put these polyominoes into your island and try to avoid negative points at the end of the game, and you can go to other islands and you can do something like 60 different things in the game.
Yeah.
And the expansion is really good. It fixes everything in the game that I didn't even know were broken. But the expansion, the Norwegians makes it a perfect game, really.
Cool.
A perfect game, especially with 2 people.
Yeah. That sounds great. Another one I've not played, unfortunately.
You should try it if possible because it's really, really good. It's not as difficult as it looks. There's just millions of options, but if you play with the expansion, then it a bit reduces them. It takes the useless options away, so you have less to choose from, and all of them are good.
Okay, very good. Number 3. So I think this might be our first crossover, unless you count Sushi Go. I don't know.
I count Sushi Go because I had both of them.
Okay, fair enough. But my number 3 then is Viticulture Essential Edition. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that argument that you kind of said that it could be rethemed as anything, but I do think it's quite an important part of it. And I think people like, sometimes they might just say that it could be rethemed as anything, but as soon as you start going into that, and it's like, well, actually no, the wine tasting and the giving visitors tours and things like that is actually quite a unique thing to vineyards and stuff, and kind of all the different grapes. Again, that's quite unusual because most other, if it's drinks or food, that it's like lots of different ingredients. It's not just different types of the same ingredient. And so I think it is important that it's wine, and even like the aging of it and things like that is all pretty well tied in. But I love Viticulture. It's probably my favourite Stonemaier game. Maybe Euphoria might be my favourite, but out of those two,
I really need to play Euphoria.
yeah, it's great.
I want to play that.
It's great. I think there's some things in it that people don't like, and if you don't like that, you won't like the game. But I really, really like it, and have played it so many times now that we played an online version of it, and we managed. I think it's supposed to be like a 90-minute to 2-hour game, and we managed the game in sort of 45 minutes. So,
where did you play it online?
Tabletop Simulator, I think.
Okay.
But it was the official Stonemaier one. It wasn't like a one that someone had built. So
okay,
it all kind of worked pretty smoothly. So yeah, but Viticulture I love, again with the expansion where you're adding in cheese and some various other bits. I think it's very, very good.
Did you try the digital version?
No, I don't think I have actually.
They released the app in the summer, and they sent me a review copy of the app.
Okay.
I still didn't finish a full game because I have problems with the user interface. I didn't like it that much.
Yeah, I don't.
But it seems like a good app game, actually. I think it would work as an app.
Yeah, it could be. I don't play loads of app games anyway. I think for me, which is one of the reasons why I started Convention gaming, for me is all about the social side of it. So
yes.
I love the games themselves, but they're the lubricant for the social interaction that I'm having.
I've never played online games. I mean, in Board Game Arena, I made the account years ago, but I bought the premium account now because of Corona, and I've been playing there a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Because can't play otherwise.
Yeah, of course.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but I wouldn't play. I'm not going to play probably, or maybe I will some games. But now I have so many heavy games on at the moment. I want to have a little break. Now when they finish, I'm not starting heavy games.
Yeah.
Too many heavy games at once.
Makes sense.
They take so long. So my number 3 is Food Chain Magnate. This doesn't have all about food. My last 2 games are all about food. This has about economy, but... Yeah. I really like this because you can make these different chains and you can make these different strategies in there, that you can go this route or this route. And I haven't played this with anyone who is really good at the game.
Okay.
If I did, maybe I would not play with them again because they know this. It seems that there are some strategies that you follow this line, you follow this line. I hate reading strategy guides from somewhere. I've done it a few times with board games that I see some strategy somewhere and then I don't want to play the game again. I want to experience and find the strategies myself. I'm a bit stubborn with that. It happened to me so many times with some video games earlier, especially that I read that this is so difficult, what will I do? I checked from somewhere, and not even online, but from some magazine at that time when I was playing Nintendo games, and then I saw it and I went through that spot and then I didn't want to play the game again. It happened to me with Legend of Zelda 2 Link something. That was a ridiculously difficult game, by the way.
Yeah.
But I quit playing after I figured out how to go past one spot, and I've never gone back to that game.
Okay.
So I have this kind of stubbornness and oddity that if I see a strategy from somewhere, I'm not touching that anymore.
Yeah.
That's done. So I want to stay away from this Food Chain Magnate strategy guides and everything.
Makes sense.
But yeah, basically you try to make a food chain, like a restaurant, and you try to sell people what they don't want to buy. And you do it by marketing the best and selling the cheapest. So they will buy whatever you tell them to buy.
Yeah.
Basic American culture at the time, even maybe nowadays also.
Yeah. Cool. There's another one I've not played. I think though for that I'm put off by the look of it.
It looks really good. I really love the looks.
Okay.
And it works well. I mean, the map tiles look stupid, but if they looked more flashy, it would make it slower.
Okay.
Because now you immediately see the distances and you can see this is there, this is there, this is there. It's made so clear that it doesn't add playing time. If they made it fancy looking, it would add at least half an hour to the play time.
Fair enough.
So it's the same with 18xx games, that they have to be quick to understand, otherwise it's really difficult.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But I understand what you're saying about the looks.
Yeah, I think I've only ever seen pictures of it, and all you ever see are those map tiles, and it's like it always kind of looks like a prototype.
Yeah, it does if you only look like that. But when you play it, you understand why it's like that.
Fair enough. Cool. Number 2. So my number 2, I think I'm quite comfortable with this one being all about food, which is Scoville. So a game where you have guys going around picking chilies, and then you can blend those chilies, and you're either trying to cook them into chilies and make recipes, or you can get points from selling them, or various different things. But yeah, really interesting. Lots of kind of pretty interesting mechanics that I've not really seen in many other games. It looks really, really nice, and the little chili pieces are really, really cool. They've got 9 different types of chili in the 10 different types of chili in the game, and you can combine them in lots of different ways. And you have these like little festivals and cook-offs and various different things. So it's very fun. I feel like, so I'm quite a big TMG fan, and I feel like this might have been my first TMG game that I picked up. It says it plays up 6. I probably wouldn't play it with more than 4 because it just drags out a bit. But at that kind of 3-4 player count, it's a really, really excellent game.
I saw some discussions on this in Finland when it was released, but after that I've never seen it anywhere. I don't know anyone who owns it, but I want to try this a lot.
Yeah. No, it's good fun.
There was a friend of mine who was planning to buy this but didn't, and I'm a bit sad that he didn't, because now I don't know where to get it. And
okay.
I don't know if I want it, but I want to try it because it looks so interesting with all the chilies and everything.
Yeah.
And it looks so colorful and nice.
Yeah, definitely. And even just the way you kind of move a farmer around the field, but like even the way they move is quite interesting, and you kind of there's just lots of different things going on, and it's got a pretty cool little expansion, which it's just like a little lab thing where you have your own little place where you can breed chilies. So it's
genetically modified.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
good for your health. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And my number 2 is our third crossover, I think, and this is Heaven and Ale.
Okay.
And because it's only about the beer, and I was thinking about this, and at the end you make the beer by doing I really love this scoring system that you have, that whatever is the furthest you put back, and then whatever is the back you put forward, and I really like. And also this scoring mechanism during the game where you have these purple tiles, I mean these purple discs that you might or might not get depending on the other players. It's so fantastic how the rondel works in this game. I really like it. I would play this at any time at the moment. I haven't played it for almost a year, and I'm so much itching to play it.
Yeah, and they just did an expansion fairly recently, I think in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, in Essen they released it.
Kegs and More or something.
Yeah, I bought it from there, but if I've understood right, it's not that much of an expansion. I think it makes the game more convoluted or somehow more difficult. I have it, I haven't played with it, but I will play with it next time when I play the game. But this is a fantastic game. I really like it for all the reasons you said, and even this disc mechanism, it's so good because someone can just snatch the disc, but you might have to go half around. I mean, you might go half around to get that disc that you really want to get the scoring, because you can then take the bonus from the card, and it's so fantastic. I really, really like the game.
Yeah, it's really, really good. All right. Number 1. Do we have to do the little bomb thing? Beep, 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 beep.
You went all in with that.
So probably not surprising, my number 1 is a beer game, and it's Brew Crafters. And so this is Dice Hate Me as well. So this was the big beer game they did quite a few years ago now, which is basically Agricola but with beer. But obviously the whole thing is around beer rather than a farm or whatever. And then Homebrewers, which I mentioned earlier, is the same designer, but obviously Homebrewers is a lot lighter. But Brewcraft is a really, really interesting game. You're almost like managing a brewery, and you're buying all the various ingredients, trying to brew lots of different beers. There's so many different beers in the game that you could brew. You kind of only put out 9 each game, but so many combinations of it. And there's kind of just all these different places that you go to, but you're kind of blocking each other out. But each round is in 2 phases, where the first bit is you're going out and getting all your stuff, and then the second bit is you're just doing stuff within your brewery. You're either brewing beer or kind of improving your brewery, various different things like that. And so, yeah, it's just really, really cool. Like, you can add a little tap room onto your brewery so people can actually come there and drink beer at your brewery. There's lots of different paths to victory as well, I think, which is what I really like, because it's just so much variety in the game. Like I said, you have all the different beers, which will change what kind of ingredients you're going after. You have all the different buildings that you can build within your brewery, all the different rooms that you can build, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone build all of them in one game, but certain ones will send you down different routes, and you have different experts that you can hire. They change every game. So yeah, there's just loads going on with the game that it can be changed, and it's obviously about craft beer, so I love it.
I haven't played this either. Was this the game that the setup takes longer than the game?
Maybe. I don't think so. It does take a while just because there's so many bits.
Okay.
But I think once you're kind of in the swing of it, you can do it pretty quickly. I think if you know what you're doing, you can play a game in 2 hours. I think for your first couple of games, you're probably looking at about 3 hours. So.
Okay. I want to try this again. I mean, this is one game again. Your list is half. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 games on the list that I want to try. Then this is one if someone else sets it up.
Yeah.
Then I can try it.
Yeah.
My number 1 is from 1989.
Wow.
So it's a bit old game. It's a la carte.
Oh, yeah.
Have you played this?
No, I've seen it played, but I've not played it myself. Yeah.
This is all about food.
Yeah.
There's nothing else than the food. Everyone has this metal frying pan where they have a food cooking, and then you try to put the correct ingredients from a plastic puddle by one swing of the wrist. And you have pepper, and you have some leaves and paprika, and you have salt and lemon, I think.
Yeah.
And salt is like 1 is fine, but if you put too much, it becomes too salty and is ruined. And you have this stove, you have to put it to the correct heat and turn the heat, and then you cook the food, and then you go to the next food and everything. And I just love how the game looks, and it's not the best game, definitely not the best game. But whenever you're done with all the foods, 1 food of each type, then you can take the crepe and you can try to flip the crepe with the frying pan, and it's really difficult because it has very high borders or edges, the frying pan, and it's really difficult. I mean, we were playing with the daughter with this frying pan, and we were just throwing the crepe and trying to make it flip properly. I mean, we played this not correctly, of course, not competitive, but semi-competitive with her, and she was 3.5 when we played it. Oh. It says 8+, but if you don't make the kid read anything, then it's fine if you read the things for them. And this has really good artwork. It has this, like, for example, it has a Cuban breakfast, and that Cuban breakfast is a huge cigar and a coffee. And then I have this picture here that I'm trying to look, and then there is oxtail au naturel, and it's just a cut bull's tail, and then there is slasher spaghetti. It comes with an axe, and I mean, the artwork is really good in this.
Yeah.
And one of the most valuable these foods in here is elephant's trunk in spinach dressing, and it's also just trunk of an elephant. This is coq au vin is drunken rooster. So this is it's really funny game.
Yeah, sounds good.
Not the best game, but most about the food in my list, at least, because there's nothing but the food.
Yeah.
If you have a chance to try it, you should try it at least once.
Yeah.
Even if you suck at dexterity, you should still try it once.
Sounds good.
Just for the fun, not to win it. It's difficult to do something with a plan here.
Yeah. That sounds fun, though.
So those were the lists. What do you think of your chances of winning the battle?
I don't know. I feel like I've maybe got some better games, but not as... I think yours is probably closer to being food and drink-y. Maybe.
Do you mean better games? Come on. You haven't played half of mine.
That's
I haven't
true.
played half of yours.
That's true.
So we share 3 and a few that we don't like. No. Actually, I like all the games that you listed that I have played.
Maybe it's, if I might get in with the people that like beer, because obviously like half of my list almost was beer games.
Yeah, that's true. But I'll get all the heavy gamers with Food Chain Magnet
true.
and Feast for Odin.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll put the list up a bit after this episode comes out, so
Great.
they have to listen first and then they can vote.
Great.
I'm not telling the list beforehand. It was great having you.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to chat.
It took a bit over an hour, but I guess it's fine.
Good.
So, do you want to say anything? Do you want to add anything?
No, I think it's good to chat through these things, and I think it's good to reflect on them. And yeah, just don't be scared of change.
Where can people find you if they want to find you?
If you want to find Aircon, it's air with an E, so AIRECON. .co.uk, PSC Games, just probably Google it. It's probably the easiest way. Plastic Soldier Company. Yeah, or I'm on Facebook. Just go and find me.
Yes, thank you,
No
and bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. You can find this podcast from SoundCloud with username Mitä Pelataan. You can also find the podcast from Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Should be in Amazon Podcasts also at some point, and it should be found anywhere you listen to your podcasts. You can find me from Instagram and Twitter with username Mitä Pelataan. There's a page in Facebook, Mitä Pelata, and you can just search by Mitä Pelataan and you should find me from many places. I have a blog, mitapelataan.wordpress.com, where you can find information about this channel and all the links to related media. You should be able to find me from YouTube as well by searching Mitä Pelataan. You can send me email to mitapelataan@gmail.com. There's also a guild in Boardgame Geek, number 3321. Interact in any way you can, comment, anything, up to you, but interact with me please. And if you listen this far, please leave a review, subscribe so that people find out about this podcast. And one more time, thank you for listening, and bye bye. The music used in this series was Nightwalker by Sentient Pulse. Thank you for that.